So today we're sewing the women's dance costume. This project is recommended for more advanced sewers. It can be a little difficult, so if you're a beginner, I don't recommend starting with this, but if you are a beginner and would like to, just keep in mind it might take a couple of tries for this one. So I've cut out all of my pieces. Something to note before you cut out in velvet, specifically if you decide to do this costume in velvet, is that it has a direction, like as in the velvet feels very rough moving upwards and very smooth downwards, and it's specifically relevant for velvet because, as you can see in the light, it changes color from dark purple to light purple. So when you cut your velvet, if you use velvet, make sure you pay attention to that. Okay, so I've cut out my front piece here, the mesh front piece as well. You can just use, nude spandex or any, type of alternating color that you like. Obviously mesh would be the most common. We have the neck piece, 2 sleeves, the back pieces, and we have the 2 circle skirt pieces here as well. So we're going to start with the front one, so I'll move the rest off to the side. Okay, so we have the front pieces here. When you cut out the front piece out of your velvet or spandex, whatever you prefer to use, when you cut this V, this is the edge you will see on your finished product. There's no folding under or anything like that with this. So you have to make sure you cut it very, very straight and neat. So what we're going to do is place the velvet piece on top of the mesh piece, and I'm going to pin together on the edges. So now that I've done that, I'm going to take my actual pins. I prefer clips, but for this section you need pins. And we're going to pin this V to the mesh here as accurately and as flat as possible. Perfect. Now we're going to head over to the sewing machine together and sew this V here. So I'm here at my sewing machine ready to do the V. We need to do a zigzag stitch. Just make sure you don't do one too narrow because it can sort of gather and get a bit wavy. So we're just going to do a simple zigzag stitch as carefully and slowly as possible for the whole V. Okay, so we've finished that step, which I always do very slowly, and this is what it looks like. So you can see the zigzag stitch here. Now we're going to move on to the back piece. So I'll pop this off to the side for a moment. I have the 2 back pieces here. We're going to place them right sides together. And we're going to clip this edge here. And we're going to sew this edge here. So as you can see, I finished this seam here. And now we need to put the front and the back together. So I have the front piece here. I'm going to take the back piece, put it on top, right sides facing together. We're going to clip it on the crotch seam, the 2 side seams and the 2 shoulder seams here. So that's all done. We're going to sew both side seams, both shoulder seams, and the crotch seam. So those seams are all done. We're going to turn it the right way around. Now the next step is to place elastic onto the leg holes as well as the back here. Obviously this will be closed with clips at the end. So yeah, elastic around here with a zigzag stitch along with the legs, and I'll show you that quickly at the machine now. So this is the back opening here. We're going to start with that. I have 6mm elastic that I'm going to sew to the wrong side of the fabric with a zigzag stitch, and you want to leave a couple of millimeters gap on the right hand side, so that way when you fold it over and sew, you can sort of sew it shut so that the elastic can't be seen. So we're going to do a zigzag stitch, and we're going to pull the elastic a fair amount as we go. So I'll try and show you the back piece now. Perfect. So you can see that I've sewn the 6mm elastic on the back piece here. And now what we're going to do is fold it over and sew again. Okay, so as you can see, I've folded it over. So now we're sewing on the right side of the fabric. Now with this very, very small lip here, you're just going to want to make sure your zigzag stitch hits that. That way, when the costume is worn, you're not going to be able to see, you know, a little bit of white like that. So that is all done. This is what it looks like on the right side. So this is what I mean. It's just making sure that the elastic is well sealed. Sometimes when performing, the costume can sort of like roll and ride up a little bit. So it's always good not to have that white line. Now you need to do this exact same step for both of the leg holes. So I finished the leg holes, as you can see here, with elastic. I've also finished the back with elastic, and I like to do the collar next. So we're going to take our collar piece, fold it in half. I'm going to put some clips on it. I find that a bit easier to work with. Great, so now it might be a little bit tricky, but there's one side that is going to be rough on the way up if you have velvet again, which matches this part. And then the other side, since it's flipped, it's actually smooth going up. So you need to pay attention to this when you do your collar, because one side is going to be slightly different color. So I need to make sure that this side in particular is on the outside to match the rest of the costume. So I'm going to flip it. This is where we start clipping to the collar. So as you can see, I have clipped the two edge pieces here. So this matches with the back. This one's a little bit difficult to show you, but you have the two back pieces, and all I've done is clipped the edges of the collar to those back pieces. Now when I open it up, I can clip to the rest of the collar here. I like to use lots of clips for this part. As you can see, I'm done. So I'm going to just have a really quick sanity check. So I flip it up. I make sure that I have the right side of the fabric here, as it's velvet. And everything looks great. So I'm just going to check this side. Perfect, so you can see that it attaches to the back piece here. Wonderful, so I have clipped it correctly. So I am going to sew along this seam here. So I've finished connecting the collar here. As you can see. Now I like to do the sleeves next, and then I like to do the clips on the back last. So I have both sleeves here. What we need to do is fold them in half. I'm going to clip along the arm seam here, like so. I'm going to sew along here and do the same for the other one as well. So I finished the sleeves here. I've turned them the right way around, and while I was at it, I just hemmed the wrists 1.5 centimeters. I prefer to do it now rather than later. So now we need to put it in the costume. So we'll turn the costume inside out. We'll take one of the sleeves. We'll place it on the inside. like so. And the seam on the arm sleeve here needs to connect with the underarm seam of the costume, like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and pin the rest of the armhole. Perfect, so I have pinned the sleeve to the costume. Now what I'm going to do is just turn the costume the right way around. I like to do a quick check throughout most of my sewing that I'm putting the sleeve on correctly. So we have these seams that line up here under the arm, and it looks perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this one and do the same with the other one. We're getting there, we're nearly done. I'm very excited. So I've obviously attached the sleeves here. Now what we have left to do is the circle skirt, but we also have to attach the clips to the collar here. So you can absolutely do this neater than I'm about to, but I like to keep it as flat as possible, which is why I keep the bottom section. So this one side will be the bottom, one side will be on top. I keep the bottom section raw, the raw edge. You can absolutely fold it over, but I like to keep it as flat as possible against the body. I think that's more comfortable for performing. So what you need is 4 clips here, is attach it to the raw edge here. So this is stretch velvet and it doesn't fray, and most spandex doesn't fray either, which is why I'm okay with using a raw edge here. So we're going to place the clip right at the top. Now I can't show you on camera because I need to do this on the floor with a hammer, but you just attach the clip like so, and we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 of them here. Now with the side that is on top, what I like to do is fold it over 1 centimeter and then place the clip through. It is a little more difficult with that many layers of fabric, but we do want a nice finished edge on that top section there. So again, I'm going to place 1, 2, 3, 4 clips here, and I'll show you when I'm finished. So I finished the clips on the back. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is the raw edge. I will trim that extra thread a little bit, but this is the raw edge with 4 clips. You obviously don't have to do 4, but since this is for a performance, I much prefer them to feel really secure. So with the other side, what I've done is folded over the edge and then clipped. That way it's a nice clean edge for this top part here, and I don't have to do an extra seam. I just wasn't interested in doing another seam, but obviously you can do another method if you prefer. So this is what it looks like when it's finished. Now all that's left to do is the circle skirt. If you're not interested in doing this part, you don't have to. You can keep the costume as is, but I definitely like it. So I have the 2 skirt pieces here. I'm going to place them right sides together, and I'm going to clip the long edge together. Now that the long edge has been clipped, I'm going to sew this edge here. So on the sewing pattern, there's a line showing you exactly where you need to sew this circle skirt. So all you need to do is draw a line with chalk on your fabric, line the skirt up and sew it like that. But I'm very particular, so I like to put it on the mannequin first. I like to pin exactly where it should be, have an idea of what the skirt will look like, and make sure it's in the exact position. So I have pinned it. So I've pinned it with a lot of pins here, just to check that I'm happy with what it looks like. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew this line here, and then we are all done.